Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Kev's Movie Corner. I am Kev and this week we are talking about Bringing Up Baby. This movie was released in 1938. It stars Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant and is directed by Howard Hawks. A brief synopsis snippet, whatever you want to call it, from IMDb is while trying to secure a $1 million donation to his museum, a befuddled paleontologist is pursued by a flighty and often irritating heiress and her pet leopard baby. Well, that's a nice noise. Apparently we have a storm in the area, so if you can hear that, it's my weather alert radio. But we'll just keep on moving forward. This movie has a runtime of an hour and 42 minutes. And this was not what I was expecting, based on the name, but it was a lot of fun. It is kind of it's considered a comedy. It's considered a screwball comedy is what a lot of the places call it, which is just kind of a over-the-top ridiculousness, kind of just random, just dumb, ridiculous jokes after ridiculous jokes. So Katharine Hepburn plays a woman named Susan, and Cary Grant plays, a paleontologist named David Huxley. Movie starts with David. You learn that David is about to be married. He's also at the same... So he's got three things going on at the same time. One, he's about to get a bone to finish a dinosaur at the museum that he works at, which he's been working on for years. So he's about to get the last bone to finish his dinosaur. It's supposed to be delivered the next day when this movie is starting. The next day is also his wedding day. And the night that this movie starts on, he is supposed to convince a lawyer the lawyer of a rich woman to give him a $1 million donation for this museum. So he's got a bunch of stuff going on at once. And he's kind of stressed. And he's kind of neurotic anyway when you watch the movie. He's kind of just a goofy, kind of uptight nerd is a good way to put it. He's kind of a goofy, uptight, just kind of a, it's just what he is. So when he's going out to meet with this lawyer, he's on the golf course. This is the first time that he encounters Susan. And the way that he finds her is he's not very good at golf. I can understand that. I'm not very good at golf. I would be in the same boat he is. His ball is on the fairway of a different hole. She plays it not knowing, not really paying attention to what's going on. He tries to tell her that it is his ball that she's playing. She's kind of just oblivious and doesn't really care, doesn't pay attention. And he tries to keep telling her he tries to stop her from playing the ball. She does anyway, and he just kind of follows her to get the ball back. Immediately after he gets the ball, after she finishes the hole and he gets the ball back, she gets into his car and starts crashing it while trying to get it out of the parking lot. And he tries to tell her that it is his car, and he ends up riding on the running board as she drives it out of the parking lot. So you've got this kind of neurotic guy who is just being with this just kind of ditzy socialite lady, young rich lady, and it's just it's so dumb that you can't. It's so dumb that I couldn't find it not funny. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous, the crap that is going on. This whole time he's trying to tell the lawyer that he'll be right with him. That night, he decides he's going to dinner with the lawyer. He goes to meet the lawyer at dinner. He encounters Susan again at the restaurant. She causes some more calamities. He ends up She ends up tearing his tuxedo jacket. He ends up accidentally tearing off the bottom part of her dress, and he follows her out so that she's not embarrassed. And as he's leaving, he sees the lawyer, and he again tells him he'll be right with him, and walks out just like he did at the golf course, which is, just kind of a running joke at this point. He learns that Susan knows who this lawyer is. It's her aunt's lawyer. She's like, "Oh, I can get you to meet with him. It'll be fine. I can get you to meet with him. He'll give you the money. I know who he is. He's my aunt's lawyer. It'll be fine." So she drives David, even though David's supposed to meet his fiance. She drives him 30 minutes away to this lawyer's house in the middle of the night, and decides to wake him up by throwing rocks at the window, and throws a large rock and knocks out the lawyer while David is standing there, and then runs away. Again, just stupid things keep happening to these people. It cuts to the next day when David is he's talking to his fiance about the wedding. He learns that he gets the bone for the dinosaur delivered. This is now his wedding day. And Susan calls him, and this is where we first meet Baby. Now, what I was not expecting was for Baby to be a leopard, which, if you were listening at all close in the synopsis, I said that her pet leopard. I was not expecting Baby to be a leopard. I was expecting Baby to be an actual baby, and this to be kind of like, was it 3 Men and a Baby that came out in I think it was the 80s or 90s? I don't remember. There was a movie, I think, called 3 Men and a Baby that was like a kind of a comedy about three men trying to raise a child. Trying to take care of a baby. But anyway, that's kind of what I figured this was going to be. No, Baby is a leopard. Baby is a leopard that Susan's brother sent from Brazil. It's a tame leopard. Baby is a tame leopard. You later learn that it's a leopard because Susan's aunt has always wanted a leopard, and that's why it's there. But right now, it's in Susan's apartment. She lies to David, saying that the leopard is attacking her, and to get him to rush over and help her take care of it. And she tricks him into helping her take it to her farm in another state. And in Connecticut, because I believe they start in New York City. I'm pretty sure they start in New York City. So they go to Connecticut. On the way, they get into more trouble by stealing a car, and a bunch of other things happen, which is just constant chaos with these two. Eventually, they get Baby onto the farm, into a pen on the farm, and David is trying to go back home, of course, for his wedding. He's trying to get back to the city for his wedding. And Susan is now says that she's in love with him. She tells her aunt that. She tells other people she's kind of infatuated. She's infatuated with him at this point, and she's trying to keep him there as long as possible by doing everything, even stealing his clothes, doing whatever she can to keep him around as much as possible. So, as this is going on, he ends up meeting the aunt in a nightgown. And eventually learns that the aunt is the one who's supposed to be donating $1 million, who he's trying to convince to donate $1 million. So now we have a new twist of he doesn't want her to know that he's trying to get $1 million from her for a museum, because it's not a good first impression, because he's kind of all over the place, and Susan has told him that he's had a mental breakdown and that he's, she's just trying to help him out and all that kind of stuff. So you've got all of this going on. The aunt's dog ends up taking the bone, which he still has with him at this point, because he ran over to her house, to Susan's house, had the bone with him to go to the museum, all that kind of stuff. So he still has the bone with him. Dog ends up taking the bone, does what a dog does, buries the bone in the yard, which is 20 some odd acres, I think Susan says, 26 acres, something like that. So they start chasing the dog around to try to find, and digging up the yard in random places to try to find this bone. Can't find it. In all the fuss, they end up coming back a little later and having dinner with the aunt. Susan tries to help more, which only ends up causing more problems. The gardener of the property, who is a little, not very, I'd say he's disgruntled, ends up letting the leopard out, letting baby out of the cage, and now you have a leopard on the loose, and while the other two are also trying to find out where the dog is hidden the bone. So you have a leopard on the loose as well. And more chaos ensues, because now other people start to see the leopard or notice that the leopard's around. This is when they learn that the leopard is supposed to be for the aunt. But nobody else knows that it's tame besides them. They call the zoo to try to help find the leopard. Zoo sends out a team of people. Then they learn that it's supposed to be for the aunt, and they try to call off the zoo, but people are already out looking for it, so they just go off looking for it themselves as well. They end up seeing another leopard being taken by a circus team this leopard has already attacked a person. It is a mean leopard. They think it's baby, so they let it out of its cage in the back of a truck. This leopard is going to be put down. They end up letting it out of its cage, so now they have 2 leopards on the loose. One is baby, and one is not, and one is very mean, and one is tame. So they're chasing now the wrong leopard, because they think it's baby. It's not. They end up cornering it at a home of somebody who they've encountered earlier in the movie, which is absolutely ridiculous as well, and cause problems for. And I'm all over the place with this, aren't I? I don't do a very good job with this. You should know that if you've watched very many of these, or any of these. But they all end up getting arrested. More and more people get arrested. Susan claims that her aunt is who her aunt is. Tells them to call. Aunt says no, Susan's in bed. Okay, well, the police say that she's a liar. And keep her locked up. And then the aunt comes down to try to get Susan out of jail. They say that Susan doesn't have an aunt, so they lock up the aunt as well. They also don't believe the story about the leopard being on the loose, them searching for a leopard. Eventually, the aunt's lawyer comes down, and this is where everybody learns who everybody is. The lawyer knows both the aunt and David, and knows what's going on. So now the aunt knows who David is and that he's trying to get $1 million from her. The lawyer says he would not, would not recommend $1 million to the museum now because of this. Susan feels upset because she feels like it's her fault. She's ruined this. Well, afterwards, I guess she's escaped during all this commotion when all this happens. She has escaped by pretending to be a mobster and talking to the police. She's escaped to go find Baby. Baby shows up in the police station. Susan shortly follows, dragging this mean leopard with a rope, on a rope. And they end up herding the leopard into the jail, to a jail cell. Susan feels bad that she's obviously, wrecked the chances for $1 million. Bad, and then kind of everybody goes their separate ways after they kind of finish herding the leopard into the jail cell. You cut to, it doesn't really say how long it is later. You cut to several days or weeks later, whatever, a later time. You're back in the museum. David's putting together the dinosaur. At this point, his fiancée is leaving him. She says she doesn't know who he is anymore. He's not really who she thought he was. She walks out. At the same time, Susan walks in with the bone that was missing that the dog buried. Says she followed the dog around for 3 days to find the bone. She also says that her aunt has given her the $1 million and she wants to donate it to the museum. David, says that he professes that the time that he had with her was the most fun he's ever had in his life, and they kind of share a moment together. And at the same, while this is happening, Susan has climbed up a ladder to be closer to him, and while they're kind of professing their love for each other, she's rocking back and forth and almost falls off the ladder. In order not to fall, she ends up climbing up on the dinosaur, causing the whole thing to fall, and he catches her before she does herself. And that's basically where the movie ends. He embraces her and kind of understands that he's going to live a life of chaos because she's around. So that's kind of where it ends. Again, it is a absolutely ridiculous movie. It is comedy. So if you like funny movies, it's definitely worth watching. This movie did not do good in the box office. Originally had a budget of around $760 million or $760,000. That ballooned to $1.1 million, which it barely made back in the box office. It got to $1.1 million. It was also 40 days behind schedule when it came out. The movie was so bad that Hawks was fired from any other productions at the company, and Hepburn, who had a contract for, I believe it's 2 more films, was put on. They changed the film that they were going to put her on, and because she didn't want to be on that film, she was labeled as Hollywood poison. She didn't want to be on the film that they decided to put her on, so she bought out her contract. They were required to pay her $75,000 each for the next 2 films, so $150,000. Because she didn't want to be on the films, she paid $220,000, so $120,000 more than she would have got paid to break her contract. which is crazy. So that was an interesting fact, I thought. This movie, this was Katharine Hepburn's first comedy. Hawks actually hired several vaudevillians just to coach her on how to do a comedy like this. So Cary Grant had already been in vaudeville, so he knew how to do comedies. So I thought that was interesting. Hepburn was also would pet the leopard, like be around the leopard. Didn't have a problem with being around the leopard because the leopard was relatively tame. Like they did a lot of trick shots and things to make sure that everybody was safe for the most part. Cary Grant did not like being around the leopard. He, I guess, scared the crap out of him. Apparently, Hepburn one time stuffed a leopard through a vent in his dressing room, and she said that he was out of there like lightning. That's what she wrote in her memoir. So he did not like it at all. She did have one run in where the leopard lunged at her, and they didn't. They kind of monitored it a little more after that. The other thing I thought about this movie that was interesting was this is the first. A lot of film historians believe this is the first use of the word gay in its modern sense of referring to homosexuality, which I thought was interesting. Because that term wasn't widely used until as a slang term, or known as a slang term, until the 60s. It was not in the script. It was ad-libbed by Cary Grant in the film. Originally, it used to mean happy and carefree or whatever. But he just kind of said it when he's talking in the movie, or when he's talking to the ant in the movie. And I just thought that was interesting. The term goes back to like the 1920s, so it had been around, but this is the first like instance of its use in a movie that I thought was interesting. So that I thought was interesting. But yeah, this movie, again, like I said, it didn't do well. It was considered a flop, major flop. Barely made back what its budget was at the box office. It started to do better when it was put on when it was played on television in the 50s, I think it said. So it started to do better later. One of the lights just came back on. Interesting. Or my computer just lit back up. But anyway, I recommend it. It was a lot of fun. Like I said, it was an hour and 40 minutes, so it's just something fun to watch. I recommend it for anybody who likes comedy. So I think that is about it for this week, though, folks. Next week, we are watching Swing Time from 1936. So, and we're coming up on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the last 6 movies in this list. So we've got we're down to the last 6 movies in this list, and most of them are more recent. There's one from the 40s, but the rest are all from the besides Swing Time, the rest are all from the 70s and 80s. So yeah, almost done. So I don't know what I'm gonna do after this. Probably just change to other movies. Just gonna do movies that I like is probably what's gonna happen. Might try to get Nikki to do more movies that she likes too, which might be interesting. We'll see. Hope you all enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and we will talk to you guys next week.